If I ruled the world, I love 'em, baby.
If I Rule the World podcast welcomes Dave Castillo.
Hey, woo, what's up?
You sure it's not Castillo?
That's like, yeah, man. Growing up in Wanta, I got a few of those.
I was corrected that your last name is Castillo, but this was quite some time ago when we were with Gavin.
Oh, okay.
And
Van
you
Villac?
you corrected me. I said we should get, Dave Castillo, and he's like Castillo.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
It's Spanish for castle.
yeah, exactly. Yes, sir.
So Dave, thanks for having us to your apartment.
Yeah, totally, man. I like having people over.
This
Angus
is-
doesn't mind either. He gets to be on the couch. He's going to be asleep by
Yeah, we have
minute
a fourth
two.
guest. Angus the dog is sitting on the couch, and he's just waiting like the rest of us. You're going to be doing something tonight? You're gonna be,
Yeah. I'm going to be on the Lot Radio, which, as I was saying before, it's like this amazing independent radio station, live stream 24/7, and it's only DJs and live performers, really eclectic slates of music, usually like 2-hour blocks. Tends to be like different shows. Like my friend Katie Rex she does this party called Bound she does them in New York, LA. She's an incredible DJ, really cool person. Like she's having like Fixmer and McCarthy, which that's Douglas McCarthy from Nitzareb. They're doing a big thing at Elsewhere for her party. Give you an idea of like the kind of stuff that she does. So she had a show today from 2 to 4.
Okay.
And then I'm going to be on a show that AJ and John from Sonnet, good friends, they invited me to play Confine stuff live because, they kind of DJ around that,
Yeah.
So it's really cool. It's something we've been talking about for a while. So now that I finally put out some recorded music, they're like, yo, let's do this. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, and is
time.
like that
It's
vibe
time.
and DJ culture something that you've been around a long time, or?
Yeah, man. I used to DJ to make money, like back in the day. Often, yeah. I mean, I used to play at places like the Delancey, which is still there. Man, why am I forgetting? It's a place that it closed down. Enriquez used to work there. Oh man, it was on Oak
Fontana's.
Street. Fontana's,
Yeah,
yes. I DJ'd at Fontana's, the Delancey. I DJ'd at the Charleston. I DJ'd all over the place.
Yeah, the Charleston.
Yeah, everything
man.
from like
R.I.P.
rock, metal stuff to like just big hip hop nights, man, and like playing like golden era '90s hip hop and R&B.
We were
just
talking about
the
this on the
techno
way
stuff.
in, like DJs and making money, and we're like, even if they make a little bit of money, it still feels like better than when you're in a band.
Yeah.
Like DJs would be like, I only made $500, and we're like, man,
Yeah, that sounds
pretty
fucking
good to
pretty
me.
damn good to me. But it's
totally good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I think it's a personality too. If you're like a hustler and like how to kind of work it, and it just really depends. Like it could be like a schlocky job, right? Like you could be like the wedding DJ could be like something. Obviously like the parody of that. It could be a schlocky job, but it could also be a really fun job. It just really depends. I mean, when I was DJing 3-4 times a week, it felt like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, all right, cool. You get tired of not even just songs, but also like just grinding with it too, But if you are, higher end and you start making it to those better tiers and stuff, like my boy Dimitri Mack, he's like kind of an EDM-y guy, and he plays like marquee and like has residencies at like hotels and stuff. He does great, and he loves it, he like enjoys the lifestyle. He's good at it, and then like he grinds, but when it's time, it's like he's playing great gigs, So
I used to do like a weekly thing over at Hellgate in Astoria. I think it's Astoria. And it's fun. It's like one of those things where it's like if you have the personality where you just like every type of music and you just want to show, you know what I'm saying? Like you go somewhere, and if there's no specific thing that you have to play, it's like you're like, oh, check this song out. Then you just read the crowd, and from there you see what they respond to. And, sometimes
it teaches you a lot. It
Yeah.
teaches you a lot of things. DJing taught me just so much about, music in general, like what it takes, on different levels to sort of like move people. And that was just DJing, night in and night out for a long time. And now that I'm making electronic music, I pull from that well all the time,
Yeah.
Like I think in that way. I'm like, oh, all right. Most of my songs are like 125 to 130 BPMs because I'm like, this is like, 12:30 to 3:30 music, you know? And I think about it that way. I'm like, you either should be like in the gym listening to this, driving at night, playing it, dancing, or fucking, and I'm like, that's it.
We got a speeding ticket on the way here because we were listening.
There's like 4 areas of life I'm trying to work my way into.
Well, I mean, we're talking about Confines, which is what you're doing now, and it is vastly different than all of the bands that you've been in. And we'll get to Aeschylus and White Widow's Pack and Primitive Weapons, more of what you've been doing over the years, which is a screamy frontman.
Yeah,
Dave Castillo screams.
Yeah,
and what
totally.
we're talking about right now is an electronic solo thing that you're doing, the 12:30 to 3:30 in the morning music.
Yeah, it's after the show. It's everything I like after the show. Everything I would do after the show. I would always, go to clubs and hang out. I think it's a very New York experience too, right?
Yeah, and as a frontman, you got to learn how to move people, and I've seen you do it.
Yeah.
And this is moving people, but you're not. It's not the same thing because you're not. It's not vocals. You're not reaching people in the same way.
It's so different. It's so like unphysical. Like I'm like pushing buttons and stuff. There's I'm concentrating a lot. Like there's the mental edge to it is like very different because I don't know, like singing to me, especially like in hardcore bands and metal bands and stuff, it's like runner's high. It's like way different. It's like super physical. Like I literally like trained to like be able to do that shit, and especially
you sort of like a moat.
Yeah, it's like very different. Whereas like DJing or like playing Confines live or DJing and stuff, like it's very intellectual, and then you start kind of like maybe you start moving and dancing a little bit like with it, but you're really like still trying to like, you can't be like free like I'm gonna go dance now like I would in the club, but you have to sort of be emotionally in that mindset, but then still have enough presence of mind to like keep going. And I don't sing at all, so it's also like it's a different high. It's like the high that you get off of like maybe having a great conversation with Sam and George. You know what I mean? Like
it's nothing like that.
No, but it's
far,
like
far
like if you met someone and you have like a wonderful, just a great conversation and time, and like everything around you is really good.
Yeah,
maybe
like
you're
on
like
an intellectual, like you said.
and so it kind of just tickles something else. Like it was really weird. I remember the first time I played it, I was like, I'm like totally fine. I'm like not disheveled. I'm not like sweating. I'm not like beer's not all over me. I didn't like.
Yeah.
I'm just like a guy in a club. You know what I mean? I was just like
it's very adult of you.
Yeah,
Dave.
I know. I like dress way nicer for these gigs.
Is that
and
what adults
stuff,
rock out?
You can, right? You don't need like to bring the extra shirt because you're all sweaty or somebody.
Nah, I mean, I'm chilling. I'm looking good up there.
What is what was the brainchild of this? Like, why now? Like, why did it drop now? Like, how long did it take you to make it?
I think that mostly was band stuff. I want to say like was slowing down as much, but I just needed something that I could do that was sort of my own. I've always played with really talented people, and they're fucking phenomenal. Like I feel like every one of my bandmates has been like, I'm like the tugboat behind like the cruise ship, like they're all pretty fucking amazing. So I kind of like, I felt like I kind of stopped learning for a while. I feel like I needed something in my life at the moment that I could just be like, you know what? This is me. This is just like, I have to own it and just be about it. And it's just something I felt like I just needed to do. And, it just turned into this sort of like challenge. It was like, I'm going to write my own songs, do my own shit. And it was weird. I didn't, Sam before this was asking me like, oh, have you ever think about singing on it or some shit? And I'm like, maybe, yeah, totally. But like, I had enough of that in a way. And I was just like, I'm going to go and I'm going to express myself and put myself into this other thing. And just a part of my life that, I love and like I've been a part of and thrown a lot of nights and hung out at many of them and done stuff like that. And finally I was like, all right, I'm going to like try this, and and I loved it,
That-
it's all right here.
That's what it is too. Like I think for people like us that once we're involved with something and it catches our ear and you do it enough, you're like, I don't know, it's like the DIY in us that we're just like, I want to do that. Like you hear a podcast, you see a band or whatever, and you're just like, the music or like the nights that you were doing over there, you're like, I fucking want to do this, right?
Yeah, totally. And a lot of things too is like when I started doing Vitus and stuff, and like I was able, like I took a big step back from DJing at that point, and because I just wanted to play what I wanted to play. And it's cool, I get asked to DJ a decent amount, but I'm mostly like darker techno, industrial, EBM, post-punk, like things that I really want to play. Or every once in a while I'll DJ a hip-hop party with my friend Fred,
Which is fun.
and which is so sick.
Yeah.
It's great because I mean honestly I listen to hip-hop as much as I listen to metal or
me too.
techno. Like I mean like you catch me driving my car listening to Freddie Gibbs, just like listening to Madlib production, and just and just like just marinating on that, because it's just a great thing. Like if you're into electronic music and production and stuff like that, it's a great way. Like I'm not gonna really make that, like, but I love to listen to it and pick things up, and I'm like, oh man, like that bass sound is so great. How could I maybe achieve that? How can I understand it a little bit?
Especially from like a professor like Madlib.
He's a genius.
Yeah, if you don't know, if people listening don't know Madlib, check him out. Also Freddie Gibb too.
Yeah, he's so
you sent
sick.
him to me.
Did I?
Yeah.
Freddie Gibbs is
I don't remember.
is my dude. I love you, Gangsta Gibbs. Wherever you are, I fucking love you.
He's out there.
Yeah, but so for me, it was just about taking that and kind of turning it into something that I really wanted to do, and taking inspiration from a lot of stuff I've listened to for a long time, and just was like, all right, you know what, I'm gonna devote the time to like learn these skills too, and it's been really rewarding. I love it.
Yeah, what's awesome about inspiration for like musicians, it's like you can get it from anywhere. Like you said, like the stuff that you do doesn't sound like Madlib, but like you get inspired by certain things, like even something that you see on TV or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then it just goes through you and comes out in a different way.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's also just like sounds and stuff, like Ministry, like really early Ministry, like Twitch era is like, what they did there. And like my dad's like an engineer, and he has like his workshop is like in the garage that I grew up in Wantagh. No, like a mechanical engineer.
Okay.
And so I grew up with like all these crazy sounds coming out of this garage and stuff. And so when I made all this stuff, I made a bunch of my own samples in my dad's garage. Like Julio, fucking 80-year-old, like, Colombian guy.
This is great. You're finally taking an interest in it. I told you.
Totally.
And then you're in there like, no, I'm just recording these sounds.
Yeah, no, he was really into it, though. He like, I was like, Dad, turn on that machine again. He's like, oh, I'm like, that's great. And he's just like, yeah, you're fucked up, man.
Shout out to Julio.
It was, Julio. He's my dude. And so, yeah, it was cool. Like, I was able, I just, these things have been done before. I just tried to connect to it in a way that made sense to me. And it was cool. It kind of like brought me back to just not knowing much either. Sometimes you get older and I've sang in bands for a long time. You have methods, you become ingrained in the ways that you do things and anything in life, really. And it's good to just not know, but also just follow your own nose at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm not knowing. I'm like, John and AJ from Sonnet, Ryan from Youth Code, my friend Soren Roy is amazing electronic music. These people, I'm always like, hey man, I got this dumb question, but it's good. Like there's that exchange there. I'm like, how do you do this? And I'm like, there's 3 different ways. There's never one way, right? And that's always that's cool. I'm just like not knowing what the fuck I'm doing, but that's
it's more fun when it's like the Wild West. When you first started singing when you were young, and you didn't know what you were doing, it's like the risk is higher, but the reward is higher. Sometimes you're like, I can't believe I did that. That was awful. But then other times when you click into something, you're like, wow. And you moved forward a little bit. And maybe you look back to where you were a month ago. And you're like, this is better now.
Yeah.
And then years later when you're doing, maybe you're singing, you're like, you don't have that same challenge because the degrees are smaller in which you're getting better or challenging yourself.
Totally.
And when you jump into something completely different, it's almost like being a kid again. You're like, wow,
or you're like, like you're adding all sorts of maybe new melody or to your singing, or you're doing different things, you know. You're trying to push yourself in one way or another, and it's not like I know everything about that or anything. It's just more like I know nothing about this, and I've been doing that for a while, you know. And so that's sort of where that is. And also sometimes you achieve things too. You need the next inspiration for whatever will happen, you know. Like the last 2 Primitive Weapons records, I think, were like what I wanted to make, you know, in such a satisfactory way, you know. Like I felt really good about what I did, what the band did, and what we made together. But like, you know, individually and collectively, I'm just like sitting there. I'm like, all right, man, you know, like Ben from Dillinger Escape Plan puts out my music, you know, like that's fucking, to me, that's just like, we're good. Like this is, to me, you know, I'm very much about those things. Like the people, there's just been so many people I respect that I've gotten a chance to do things with. It's just, to me, that's wild. That's insane to me, you know? And so
satisfaction.
It's satisfaction. And then also I'm like, all right, I did that stuff now though. Which path do we grow into or not, or whatever? What can you do lifestyle wise, as far as how much do you want to play? A lot of things fall into that, you know? And you're like, all right, well, we'll see, right? We'll see. Maybe we play more. Okay, cool. We do this tour. Maybe we do this, you know? But then it's like, at least for us, you know, I've never been in bands that are like very careerist in attitude or vibe, you know, or it's like the Legion of Fans are like, we have to go out and like put some food on the fucking table or do something like that. So it's like, why don't you just like shut the fuck up for a little bit, and maybe something cool or not cool will happen to us, and here comes the next thing, you know? Yeah.
It's almost like the best of both worlds, really, then. You know, you get to not really worry about where your next meal is coming from, but also you get to like make music and create stuff with your friends that, you know, a lot of people really are into. And like you said, Ben from Dillinger putting it out, so super satisfying,
crazy, dude.
And
you know,
and satisfaction is like the hardest thing when you play music. You know, you just it's not ever like
sometimes you just
sometimes it's the enemy. If you're too satisfied.
Satisfaction is the death of desire.
That's right.
I'll be singing Hate Breed tomorrow, boys.
I was listening to Vinny Pez today on Joss's podcast. So shout out.
Sick.
Yeah, but sometimes it's what what keeps you going, and then sometimes it's the enemy when you're too comfortable. Totally. But that's the artist's mind. It is a fight. Yeah, you know, and that's totally. Why we're not that.
I think that also sometimes you just and there's many things, right? You could be very negative. You can be like, I don't have this. My stuff's as good as that. My stuff is way better than that, or whatever. You can get into these things, or why hasn't certain things happened, or why have they happened, and sometimes, and I think that's most things in life,
Yeah.
And sometimes you just have to I have to quiet my mind sometimes and just go, Dave, shit's cool, man. This is really fucking great, and not in like a negative sort of way too. Sometimes it's like you just want to do and do and do and do, and sometimes I'm like, you don't really have to, or like, wait up a minute, when Artie calls you with that riff, whenever day that happens, that's a fucking great day, man. You know what I'm saying?
About 10:30.
Yeah,
I told
totally.
you before.
Let him know.
Told Dave I got a riff.
He had to buy new strings.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying, and like that's always good, And I think that's where Confines is good, because it's just internal too, and it's not like I'm sitting, I'm sitting here and I'm working, but when I have other things in life too, I just put it down, and that's that, So it makes it easier, obviously, when it's by yourself. But
yeah, absolutely. And you could just sit here at your leisure. Before with the band, like you said, you're waiting for Artie's riff, or any other.
And he's a table setter, right? Like. There's no band without Artie's riff, you know what I mean? Like he's various, like he's the dude. He writes the majority of this music. He sets the whole thing, and then some jamming happens, and Chris and Eric really are fantastic, and then all of a sudden things start switching up a little bit, but it's cool. But it's under the guise of like, you know, like what Artie sets up, you know, which is fucking. I mean, I'm honored, to be honest. You know, the guy is, to me, one of the best songwriters from New York. Period.
Absolutely.
Starting with Mind Over Matter and then all the way through, man. I love Aerotype. I love a lot of the things that he's done. So. And Chris too is like, you know, I looked up to him too. I play with a lot of people, like I was saying before, that I literally listened to their music and was like, oh man, that On the Might of Prince's record is fucking banging, dude, you know? And obviously Chris is one of my really good friends now, but sometimes you know, you think about it, you're like, fuck, all right, yeah, I love this dude. Like,
it's like, thank God I love you, and I love your music.
Yeah.
One without the other sometimes sucks.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, when you get guys, like you said, set
good
the
guy,
table.
bad band, you know,
right.
It happens.
But, you know, they set the table. And, you know, sometimes I remember, and this is many years, but, you know, the people I played with who you're like, damn, I wish this wasn't so good because I feel the pressure to
oh, yeah, dude, I felt
get it
insane.
done and, like,
I felt
get it done
insane.
Right. Yeah.
Like, the first time that I was singing for Primitive Weapons, I felt insane.
Yeah.
I just was just like, I was just like, all right. I felt like I was like auditioning to be on like the Yankees or some shit.
Yeah, you
I'm
remember
a Mets
like
fan,
the drunken conversation.
I'm looking at your hat. That's why.
Yo, shout out to Don Mattingly.
Yo, Mickey Calloway, got some issues. But what I'm saying though is that's a different podcast. Is just like, yeah, you know, I'm looking at these dudes.
Pressure.
Eric
like,
was
I
in
remember when I
Chariots,
said
and he
yes,
was in.
that sounded awesome, but now I gotta do it.
Yeah, dude.
And how do
I'm
we-
like, and they're all just sitting there listening, you know, and like there you are, all soloed out and stuff.
Soloed out, yeah.
You know, just fucking,
It's the least
just
favorite.
just like running nude through the fucking city. Like that's what it feels like. It's just insane. Yeah, it's just so, and around people that you really. You know, you're like, oh, Eric was in Chariots. I fucking love Chariots. You know, they all had much bigger resumes. I was in a small band from Long Island called Aeschylus. We played some cool shows. It was my first band, and then I didn't do anything for a couple of years. I didn't make music for a while, and
That's why when I asked you for a list, I was like, no, I thought he was in other things.
nah, man, there were the Dark
made that
Ages.
up.
The Dark Ages was.
How'd you meet
real.
up with Bob? Because Bob put out my friend Bob did what was it 4-leaf recordings back then?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, he just went to shows and he liked it, you know, and so we're like, all right, cool. Like,
I
give us
remember
some
he gave
money
me
to
the CD.
record,
He's like,
and, yeah, and it was, you know, it was fine. I mean, like, we played, we did our shit. It was cool. Like, Aeschylus is very formative and fun, and we played with some sweet bands, like, you know, 12-Hour Turn, a lot of like that. Did we ever play with Orchid? I'm not sure. We played with Hope's Fall. We played with Sky Came Falling. We played.
What year was this? This is your first
Early
band.
2000s. I
For
was
people
like,
listening.
yeah, I was probably like 18, 19. So I wasn't even in
Because I remember
high school.
I met you and you were really young.
Yeah. I
Early
probably
20s.
met you when I was 24 or 25 years old. And now I'm 36
to
now.
like Tiffany.
Tiffany,
sizes.
yes, Tiffany,
And,
because I worked at the salon.
The salon, yeah.
With my mother
But
and
at
Tiffany.
Juke Joint, different things. But I
Yeah.
knew of your band, and so that was your first band that you were.
Yeah,
ever
so
in.
actually, I forgot about that. So you knew me when I was like 19, 20.
Okay,
Sneaking into.
yeah. Everybody says that to me.
Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't even legal to be into the Juke
Yeah.
Joint, but I
You know
didn't check IDs. It was Joe Rubino's job.
Yeah.
What's it?
It was Joe
didn't do a very
Rubino's
good
job. Yeah. That's great. Classic Long Island.
But how did you make that leap? So your first band is Aeschylus, but how did you get into Aeschylus?
Woo. I just started it. I started every band I've been in, which is kind of fucking weird. Yeah, I've never tried. That's not true. I tried out for one band and I didn't get it, which I thought that's hilarious. I drove all the way to New Jersey to try out for that band. It went pretty well, but regardless, every band that I've ever like been in, I started with friends. You know, like Aeschylus is like. These guys went to Hofstra. They were cool. I was going to Hofstra, and I was like, I want to be in a band. And I was like, you can play guitar. You know, I put it together that way, you know. Weapons was kind of like, Enriquez was down to play with me, and we had become really good friends. And I was like, all right, cool. I would love to play. And I was like, I want to start a band that reminds me of like home, like Long Island, like post-hardcore, like Quicksand, Mind Over Matter. Like, you know, we were just going through shit like that, but like maybe with like, you know, like that is like a jumping off point, you know?
Yeah.
And he was the one who was like, yo, you know Artie Shepherd? And I'm like, no. But I mean, like, yeah, but no.
Yeah.
He's like, yo, he bartends across the street. I was like, what? I was like, no doubt, sick. But he was the one who kind of like put that together because we needed a guy to be the person to, you know, like come set the table, you know? So I was like, all right, cool.
Was that Matchless era?
Yeah, Matchless era. And so that's how I met Artie, like legit. And you know, so I was kind of egging Chris on to like start, you know, something there. And with White Widow's Path, I pretty much was at that point, you know, we were doing Vitus, and it was going well. And there's this kid, his name is Nick MD. He's a phenomenal guitar player. And I had met him because I was a bartender at this place called The Cove, which is like a weird bar that's not there anymore. But it used to be more of a dance club, but I had some quieter nights, and I'd play like rock music, and we'd just like chill out, and we had some good drink specials. So I met him through his ex-girlfriend, and he lived in Texas. And we just hit it off about music. There's not, at that time I felt like, yeah, there wasn't as many people who I was like, yo, I love Crowbar and stuff, and really was like fucking about it. Mm-hmm. And then I heard the kid's band. He was in a band called the Destro, and they were on Metal Blade, and they kind of had like, he's from Texas, so he has it in his hands. I was like, oh my God. I'm like, this dude writes riffs like I Hate God, Crowbar and stuff, and I'm like, when you come to New York and you move here, we're going to start a band. Because, like, Northerners kind of can fake the funk a little bit. But maybe the best band to do that from up here is, like, Every Time I Die, maybe, where they bring a little bit of the Southern swagger into some of their stuff. Maybe Dutch Guts from New Jersey. A few. But, man, the dude had it. And so then once he came up here, I was like, all right, I want Kenny from Ghost Cube because that guy can play like double bass like a motherfucker. And then like, you know what I mean? And I just tried. It was like the draft. I was like the GM. I was like, okay, with the fourth pick I was like, I really wanted to put something together that was going to be this sort of like.
You were like the Lou Pearlman of.
Yeah. I would consider myself to. I'm like Mike McCagnon right now, preparing for the New York Jets draft.
Just laughing at Lou Pearlman.
Yeah, you love Lou Pearlman, huh? That's good. But yeah, so that's basically it. Like I was like, I'm going to put this together with this specific idea of doing like this, you know, kind of crowbar-y, I Hate God-y meets like New York hardcore thing, kind of north meets south kind of idea. And that was it.
You get those two flavors, you know, you have Primitive Weapons and then you have White Widow's Pack, right?
Yeah.
So it's, you know.
And that band, you know, everyone's really busy. We talk about playing every once in a while, you know, but we had a run where we played a bunch and it was fucking awesome, you know. It was great. I loved being in that band and I'm really proud of those records, you know. And like it achieved a lot of what was going on up here, you know, as far as that sort of thing goes, you know.
Yeah.
And now all those guys are making. Well, Brian's a father now, so he kind of chilled for a minute, but now he's coming back with like this post-punk band that sounds really cool. I just heard some demos, and then Nick and Travis are working on a band called Hogwash that's currently in a development deal with like a very big record label. And it's kind of like a industrial metal thing. It's fucking super cool. I've heard a bunch of that stuff, and Kenny, you know, keeps playing drums in a bunch of different bands. So everyone keeps busy. It's cool. And then when we come together, it'll be like Voltron. It'll happen again, I think. I hope to make some new music one day.
And it sounds really cool from, you know, even before we started the podcast, you know, you described your night last night. You know, you just hop around. There's a lot of stuff going on in the area. Everyone seems to be associated with music, whether it's like heavy music or like, you know, doing like the side project with like the, you know, electro stuff. Man, what a difference, right? Was Wanta even like that? You know, like I feel like everyone's kind of like under the same bubble here.
Because it's like that now.
Shout out to Mulcahy's.
Like that back then.
Yeah, man. Me, Artie, and George went to go see Doc and at Mulcahy's.
I remember. I saw
Yeah, that was sick.
I saw-
Was it Dawkins? I forget. Fuck. I'm
No, it
fucking
was
on my
it was,
hair
it was Doc. It was Doc, because I remember
It was Dawkins.
George checked in, and I was like, I didn't even know he was playing.
Yeah, man, it's serious business. Wild Wanta night, sure. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. You know, I feel like I've always I searched for a connection. Maybe when I was out on Long Island, and in a way, I was music provided a lot of connection. You know, most of the I'd say 90% of the good stuff in my life has come through music somehow or another, from people, work, opportunity, and just vibe, you know? And I feel like that's why I try and maintain that, and I'm just interested, man. I just like it, you know? Like, I feel like sometimes people are like, man, you just, like, you're really, like, in it and out there and still doing stuff, you know? Like, friends of mine who, you know, maybe different career paths and stuff, and I'm like, I'm still just trying to continue following just what I dig, and like it's become more because of Vitus and then some of the marketing stuff I do on the side, and it just you know, that's like what I do. You know, I don't even really think about it. I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna go hang out and check out this band from France.
And I think what it is,
like, you know, do they suck? I don't know.
For people that don't live kind of, you know, it's the same thing. Like, I try to do just as much stuff, only like I live in, you know, West Babylon. But for people that you grow up with that aren't really associated with things like that, I guess they do look at that. They're like, oh shit. They're like, how do you continue? You know, how do you keep up with this? How do you keep up with that?
I think also people maybe just think that it's like not as relevant. You know, like you get older and you're like having a mortgage. That's something that's like important. You know what I mean? Having a kid, that's something that's like important. You know. Having Angus, yeah, important. You know, my wife, important. Obviously, those things are important. But like having a synthesizer is very important to me. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm just like not gonna front. Like having a creative part of my life is like prereq, you know, and also having something like plugging into that music thing is something that has to happen. You know, like I'm not trying to not have it in my life. Like it's just part of me, you know. If not, then I've lived that a little bit, you know. When I was talking about like the dark ages and I didn't really make music, I was DJing around a little bit and stuff, but there was a lot of like, you know, I graduated school with a philosophy degree and I'm just trying to make things work, you know. I'm just trying to make a little bit of money and survive in the city and like do stuff. And at a certain point, I finally like kind of broke through, got a pretty decent job in advertising. I was doing copywriting at the time, and I was like, you know, I need to be doing this, you know, like this is, and my mind was kind of very far from that person, that aspect of what made me tick, and I kind of didn't notice it. It really was like a very slow attrition moving in this way, you know. And then unfortunately one of my best friends passed away, and it really like was like a big like moment and a reflection on that too, and thinking a lot about the things that made me happy to the next day, you know what I mean? These other things, everything was it felt like long-term goals at that moment. I was really young. I was 22, 23 years old, but I felt my mentality changing in a way. And that was the moment where it was like hard left. We're going this way, but then we're going to marry it with, you know, eventually I kind of was like, all right, I can find my place in this maybe, you know? Let me see about this and how I feel about it. And then fucking Christ, you know, St. Vitus, like it's still pretty unbelievable, like, you know, for that all to sort of happen the way it did. And
let's talk about that.
Let's go in there,
because we're talking about the article in was Kerrang.
Oh yeah, the Artie set that whole thing up, man.
Yeah,
he did
the
an
history
amazing job.
of Kerrang, history of St. Vitus in Kerrang. It's a great article, and
they did an amazing
you guys
job.
all talking about your different perspectives, and some of the perspectives were similar, some of them were different even.
Sure, I think that's
stories.
the thing is like when we're all together, we've done a bunch of them, like a decent amount of this stuff, like all together, and it's great. I mean, we see a lot of things eye to eye for sure, but then also there are things that just memory and the way that things like that work, you pull different things,
Sure.
you know? And when you don't have the group think of it happening at the time, you're like, oh, you know, different things pop out. I think it was like a really
But it's a great
cool
story
thing.
the way that is
Yeah,
sort of
they did it
juxtaposed.
cool.
But just for the record, what is your association with St. Vitus? For
I am a partner there, and along with George Nardi, and my main role is talent buying and booking. You know, that's like what I've, you know, I started doing that more independently, and then I started playing in the band with Artie, and then him and George were going to start this bar, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then that became St. Vitus, and you know, I started off as an employee, and then they, you know, asked me to kind of crew up a little bit, you know, stronger with them, and was really happy to do so. And 8 years later, like, here we are, you know. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's kind of unbelievable.
Booking always seemed like a very difficult and unrewarding job to me. Like, it literally seemed like.
I see that I got this second beer on deck, and we're really
I
we're
queued
ready
you up
to
for a reason.
Yeah,
Believe me, I know what
totally.
I'm doing. But
He's getting me loose, Sam. By the end of the end of the podcast, we're gonna have the B-sides are gonna be really good.
it's an unforgiving, unrewarding job for the like handful of times that I've ever done it.
Yeah, it's fucking
a
hard.
dozen times, baby.
It's fucking hard in certain ways. I mean,
Especially you do it consistent. You can pick and choose if you're someone like me.
yeah,
But if you're someone like you have to be consistent. You're judged on the last thing you ever did. You know.
He's saying all the right things, Sam.
Yeah.
He's saying all the right things. That's a man with
Well,
experience.
if you need an agent.
Listen, that's why I'm shutting up. I see where he's going.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've gotten good at it over time, and I'm passionate about stuff. You know, like we're gonna have a Killing Joke play at St. Vitus. I fucking love Killing Joke, man.
How do you
Like,
juggle like the
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Heavy.
I really, I like shit. You know what I mean? I like J.K. Flesh. I want it. I want it like a record collector wants it.
But how
know?
do you juggle like, okay, Killing Joke, no brainer,
Yeah.
as opposed to like something you like that might not draw as well, or your friend's band that just, you know, like, all right, let
Yeah,
me
like
try
my
and,
band on a Wednesday.
Rule one.
like if you're gonna book Playing Dead, you realize it's a losing
You can't
proposition.
blow. You can't blow. I try and book stuff that I like. You know, I think that there's a left and a right brain to it. You know, well, first of all, I think holding the seat that I hold, mainly, too, is like, okay, we have to get people in there. They have to, you know, party and hang out and like go to the bar, right? That's like kind of obvious. And then there's like, I think if you occupy my seat, there has to be two competing. There's that aspect, and then from like a taste, there's two competing sort of narratives, right? One is like your own narrative, like, yo, I like this shit and it's gonna make us money. That's sick. Like, I'm down, right? I'm like, cool, yob, play for the next fucking 50 nights. I'll go on vacation. Godflesh, call me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's fine. You know what I mean? Like, that's one thing. And then the other thing is there are a bunch of bands that I may not like, but they might be your favorite band.
Right.
And that's also kind of important. And I think you have to realize those moments that aren't for yourself. And you can't occupy my chair being like too solipsist and being too like in your own like ego of what you're doing. If you want to do something very highly curated and you want to do like 10 shows a year and just be like, cool, like this is what I do and I'm down with that stuff, more power to you. That's fucking awesome. And in fact, we have people that we work with that are like that, you know what I mean? And like, they're great, you know, because those folks, they're super about it. I'm the fucking thrash metal guy and I got this fucking beautiful thrash metal show. And I'm like, absolutely, I'm going to host that. Mm-hmm. Thank you for, you know, or New Wave British heavy metal song. Thank you for the Pagan Altar show. Yeah, thanks, Henry. You on, wherever you are, an Electric Assault Records. Yes, you know, like, Henry is an amazing guy. He does all this tour managing, and he does like really amazing, usually kind of more like true metal, really heavy metal shows.
So in that case, he's bringing you the whole show.
He brings the show, but he's not going to do like, he's not going to book a month at St. Vitus. He's not going to like, he's going to bring certain shows, and he does a fucking amazing job. He puts out really cool records, tours with really cool bands. He just, he knows it. He knows it inside and out. I know a good amount, maybe not as much or whatever too. I'm happy to learn from everybody too, like I feel like it's like I'm like a general practitioner. He's like, I'm like a foot doctor, I'm a podiatrist. Like, he's like a specialist, and all those people, I learn from them. I love them, like I'll just sit there with, Ron Grimaldi and be like, let's talk about something I don't know enough about. The Oracle, dude. Fucking love you, Ron. But yeah, so, that's really cool. I really respect and love what Henry does for us, and the fact that we're a place he likes to work with a lot, But for me, I have to look at all of this and then sort of balance and move it out along with just the overarching theme of like what's the best for the business and to make, money and to create the reputation that we have, because we also can't just also trade on like, oh, hey, now a bunch of crappy bands are playing at Vitus, everybody, because,
come no matter
they
what.
do that. Yeah, that's not going to happen either.
That ruins clubs.
Yeah, it ruins places. And also it's not about like, also even like, now we're just going headhunting for always like the biggest, oldest band or something like that. That's fucking bullshit too.
Yeah.
Like if you're an underground place, you should be trying to promote and elevate the next shit too. So I'm always trying to balance the two because I don't want to be either one genre, where people are like, oh, that's the X bar. You know what I mean? Like, it's St. Vitus. It's like an experience itself. Or it's like the old head bar or the young kid thing. Right. Or it's like, no, it's check the calendar. There'll be something there for you. You know what I mean? Just and that's important to me.
Growing up on Long Island, the deal of the club that's like, we have 10 bands. We're just trying to fill the place. And like you could see the club owner who might have been reluctant is now like, wait a minute, this is how you make money. And then what happens is it just whatever was good about what was happening there is just over. It just knocks itself out.
Yeah.
And
there's no accounting for taste, George.
Nah. We've all played slot 10 of 10.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
Everybody thinks
or
more,
1 of 10.
More is better. If a show is good at a couple hundred with a couple bands, and well, why not put 5 bands? Why not put 6 bands? And like, it's not a show. You're not making people be like, that opening band was awesome.
Yeah,
I remember those shows where I would go to the Wetlands. There was only 3 or 4 bands. You'd be like, yo, that band was awesome. And
imagine being like at that time too. You're like, dude, I would love to become one of 4 on that show. That's not an easy thing to get, especially when like 3 and 4, are like maybe like 7 seconds and burn. Burn, and then like Quicksand. Kill Your Idols is like 2. You know what I mean? You're like, fuck, man. If I was out, I'm like dying to be one of 4.
Right.
Little piece of shit from Wanta is loving one of 4, but that's
but I'm
cool.
Dying as one of 14.
Yeah, totally, literally dying. Yeah. But that's great, and also that's good booking, because you're doing stuff that's gonna build people. You know what I mean? I like bands. I'm trying to build them, man. I'm legit, like at least locally and stuff like that. Like I do have favorites. I'm a subjective person. Sure. As much as I try to balance myself, I am, and I'm like, that band's fucking good. I gotta try, and if they're down, we can work with this, and we can try and help it out, because I just want to see motherfuckers succeed, yeah. Fuck,
I'm sure you've seen shows, probably even at Vitus. Let's say they're not well attended, and you see a band that kills, and you're like, I want to get people in this room to see this band eventually.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You want to help them out.
For sure. Yeah, and also sometimes it's just like that's the best shit too, like the for example, like even when there is a nice crowd though, like last night I saw this band called Pawns. I was telling you guys about it. They're kind of like a mix of like maybe like Rudimentary Peni and like Flux of Pink Indians, kind of like peace punk stuff with like death rock, like Great Southern Death Cult and things of that nature. Very, very sick though. Really cool. It's a clever mix. Great bass player, great singer. Like they do this thing and they do it really well. It was a nice little, like crowd there. It was probably like 70 people or so, and that feels good in that room. Like, but I'm like, man, like a band like Pawns, I want to put them. Then they put in work. They're putting out records. They're doing cool stuff. You're like, that's the band that I'm taking and like I'm trying to put on, bigger shows and stuff like that. Or if people ask me too, like we all talk, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, every once in a while I get a call. Hey, what's up, Dave? Hey, Christian, what's going on? Like, what do we pick each other's brains, about people in booking and on the artist side. Yeah, Christian McKnight, who works for Live Nation. It's like I have a lot of friendliness with a lot of people who are also buyers who sit in my seat just in other clubs, and sometimes I'm like, how did this do for you? If I have a good relationship, it wasn't so great at this level, but for you guys, maybe it'd be really good, And there's a lot of that. Or like, hey, you guys, did they actually like, this is the phrase, are they worth tickets? Oh yeah, they're definitely worth tickets, and I get that stuff from agents too that I like, they'll be like, yo, do you think that, this band is worth tickets as like a support band, and I'll give my opinion, so I'm always trying to parse it out, but also being good is key, like, because if you just feel like, all right, can you grow this band, Agent X, maybe you should take them on, put them on a big tour, then I'll book them over here, and then hopefully it cultivates more and more.
Wow. And it's weird that you call it like buyers. I always think of it as like the booker, the booking agent, but you call it talent buyer.
Yeah, and it's like a very commodity thing, but the commodity is music, and
because
it's
you might
kind
be buying a whole
fucked up.
show.
It's sort of fucked
you're
up.
Paying no matter what.
Yeah, and it's sort of fucked up at times to call it like that because unfortunately there's not enough people, to be very blunt with you, that either know enough about music or give a fuck enough about music that are in those seats.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. It seems like,
you know what I'm saying? Like, just straight up, it's like,
so it's the music industry. It's always been that way.
Yeah, it's totally.
Whether
but
it's
it's
a
like
record label
motherfuckers will work with a singing frog if it'll make them a buck. You know what I mean? And you're like, dude, whatever. You're fucking corny. Like that shit sucks. And also there's folks too that they got to have the vision, man. They got to have the vision to build bands and want to do that. And right now it's the opposite. Live music makes you money. And there's a lot of that, And sometimes it's a numbers game, too. It's like, hey, I'm going to get a bunch of bands, and then I'm going to put them out on the road and see what sticks, And, I understand that there's pains on both sides of it, selling and buying and being in that sort of thing. But it's like you're only going to do better if you have a cultural eye for it. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you understand a scene or a vibe, or like maybe you get out of your fucking house and see the show, you know what I mean? And like do some things. So yeah, unfortunately sometimes it's like that. And also, it's not even like a Luddite thing. Like, I've met people who are older in the industry, like the music industry and stuff like that are like immensely inspiring. Like, and they've done incredible things, and I'm like, wow, all right, cool. So I'm not, what I'm saying, I'm not like new, It's just, I've seen different approaches, and some of them I'm like, yo, motherfucker, you should have been an accountant, homie. Like,
yeah, I can imagine.
You know what I mean? Like,
I've met people that work in music that I feel the same way about, where I'm like, how the fuck? Like, I'm like, I know.
Like, I never went to school to like do this at all. I'm a fucking fan. I have a philosophy degree and a sociology degree. Like, I was thinking about going back and writing books and thinking about like real crazy shit, like existential risk and stuff. Like, those are the things that I'm sort of fascinated by. But
if you wrote a book, what would that book be?
Man, if I was really like devoted, I would love to write a book. Basically, mostly it would be more on existential risk, which is philosophy stuff. Basically, it's kind of a school of thought that talks about just studying the things that would be like the worst for humanity and trying to avert them. So like climate change is a big one. Existential risk, people talk about that. Talk about like singularity, like negative singularity. So like think like Terminator, like everything's smarter and smarter at factors that are higher and higher of like computing and intelligence. And if those things, don't need you, there's a great essay called "The Future Doesn't Need Us." In many ways too, if like we don't need to do jobs as much, cars are driving themselves, things of that nature. These are all issues and problems of capitalism, when it comes to that. And those sorts of things drive me nuts. I fucking love it. And like that, and like reading like every single blog post about like the New York Jets. And like I just love pain, man. I don't know. I'm fucking that's it. But
existential risk.
Yeah, exactly. So if that was like if I were doing something else, that would be something I was pretty much I went to school, I was pretty groomed up to do, like be and thinking about those sorts of kind of macro problems.
Is Julio still waiting for you to do that?
No, I think my parents at first they were just like, they're fucking amazing people. Like they're unbelievable. Like I just, I'm really very fortunate. And they never really, pushed me to do anything, I mean, I think that they were worried at a certain point where I was sort of like very like flimsy on like career path. But then they've seen like the success of the things that I've been doing, and it's proven itself. And I think at their point is like my dad liked his job. He's a mechanical engineer and he really liked his job. My mom owned her own business. She owned Fingers, Faces and Toes on Belmore Road, maybe Merrick Road. Sorry. Yeah. It was in Belmore on Merrick Road. Which is a salon for like 20 something years, So they've been in business themselves. They've done that and stuff. And so I think that they're like, oh, all right, David like applied something that he really likes and he's like able to do something with it, and right now it's working out. I mean, and it's been working out for a while. So that's fucking great, And so they see that and they're like, yeah, this is pretty cool, I'm glad that we immigrated from Colombia and like, it ended up working out in one way or another. Because my family, the other folks in my family are like a little bit more on the professional side, but it's kind of a balance of left and right brain too. Because my brother Javier is a creative director in advertising, really brilliant dude, super sick painter, stuff I can't do at all. I'm like, I can't draw like a stick figure, but Javier, brilliant, And then like Andres and
Javier can't scream.
You know what? It was really funny.
It's true.
Hav, I'm gonna give you a shout out. So Hav went to like some sort of like fucking retreat thing. Seemed pretty like corporate retreat thing, and they made him yell, like in a room, like with like other people, just to like get out frustration. And he hits me up and he's like, "Dude, I think I get it. Like, I think I understand why you like all this crazy shit." I'm like, absolutely. I was like, Javier, think about it. Yeah, Javier is my eldest brother. I'm like, dude, you're like in your 40s, and how many times in your life, like in your just daily life or whenever, do you go and you get to hold a microphone, say whatever you want about how you feel about the world, your world, the world, everything like that at the top of your lungs with what feels like an army of sound behind you? It's like... that's what it feels like, that's and I get to do that, it's not a common thing, man. You just don't.
Clap.
Not at all.
What's up?
And people clap.
Yeah, dude. I'm just like, yeah, dude, this sucks, blah, blah, blah. Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
One
Stick
more
around.
song. One more song.
Yeah. So that was a really funny like text to get one like random day, But yeah, so it was good. I feel like I'm lucky that way. I have a really great relationship with them, and like they see it. I still remember when the first time my mom and my dad went to St. Vitus. It's like my mom's like, "Yo, I want to go," and I'm like, "All right, cool."
I so feel about that cross.
Yeah. And so I like...
By the way, nothing blows Sam's mind more than someone who praises their parents
Oh,
and talks about a functional family.
Oh my
He'd
God.
be like,
Yeah.
of everything you said tonight, he'd be like, that's crazy.
Yeah, man. My
Shout out.
mom was in the booth watching Mutoid Man and Primitive Weapons at St. Vitus on a
Nice.
Tuesday. Papi, I thought there was some people there, but wow, you know? And like that Tuesday night just like set the scene. I felt like I'm good.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Me gusta ese banda que se llama Mutoid, ¿qué?
Yeah, totally. Sam's got it.
My mom said the same thing, but she's Italian. So
Oh,
it made
yeah.
it really weird.
I'm Mutoid Amanda. I
Yeah.
love her.
It's good.
If you had to like pick one or two, like what are the nights that really stuck out at Vitus? Like one of the most memorable shows for whatever reason.
Well, you know, everyone's gonna talk about like
Sure.
Carcass and Nirvana and stuff, and like as they should,
Sure.
because those shows are sick. I was at both. You know what I mean? Like they're amazing. Sometimes it's like I feel like some of the stuff that sticks with me too are just it's either devastating performance or just stuff that is like it's just so obtuse, and then you like it finds a home, you know, and you're like, fuck, man, like that's wild. Like I have like Prurient playing to 200 people, and he's just destroying people with sound, pretty much, you know. And it's like, wow, you know, like we just did that. Like Merzbow played 2 shows in a row, fucking 500 people one night, you know. And you're like, what the fuck? What, like that's insane. Like
Or some
that's
people outside.
fucking brutal, you know what I mean? And like amazing that we're able to pull off some of that stuff, but also I love the range of it, you know. Sometimes it was like, yeah, here's this this show, you know, with like Gate Creeper and White Widows packed, and then like there's this fucking 80s like really like darker new wave night, you know, Depeche Mode and The Cure and stuff afterwards, and both things are just fucking crushing it. And people from the show stayed, and it was really cool. Sometimes when you're able to kind of just like cross some of that stuff over,
Worlds collide.
I love that, man. I really love that. So yeah, there's a lot of things, you know what I mean, that can stick out. And sometimes it's one of those things where like I talk to people about, you know, I saw Graveyard, you know, with like 60 people because they got snowed in New York and they just wanted to like play a show, so they played St. Vitus. It's crazy. It's like being at like one of their practices. You know what I mean?
Well, that's how I felt. I saw Sam I Am after Hurricane Sandy,
Yes.
and there was like
We were one of the few places like really open.
Yo, they're like one of my favorite bands ever, and I saved my gas because there was no gas to be found anywhere.
Shit.
Wow.
And I saved my tickets, and I told the 4 people that I took with me, I'm like, yo, we're going. I'm not driving anywhere. I'm like, when the show comes, if it's still going, we're going to drive there. And there was like about 20 people because no one could make it to the show.
Yeah.
And
And they played. They were fucking awesome about it too, man.
yeah,
Great
they were
guys.
super cool. Jason lost his voice, and I helped him sing like half the set. So
Wow,
That's
dude,
all.
that's crazy. Oh yeah, Artie did a bunch of tours with those guys,
Yeah.
and he's really good friends with them. Really, really cool dudes. That's actually that's like a great one too. So after Hurricane Sandy, obviously, like it was such a mind bending time. Like places, certain parts of New York are like destroyed. Some parts are fine and very active and stuff. And we had just narrowly escaped some shit getting really damaged by like 6 inches of water, but we were luckily like okay. And so you saw Sam I Am, but the night right after the Sandy really like dissipated, and it was like it was a Van Halen cover band played. They were called Bottoms Up. That's it. Bottoms Up. They're from Long Island.
of course.
And they play like only like like fucking David Lee Roth era Van Halen. They're really fucking good at it. And so Brooklyn Vegan was hitting up all people from all venues. They're like, "Are you open? What's going on?" Like they were just doing their sort of reporting. Dave and those guys are so always on top of like what's happening, So we're like, "Yeah, we're open. We have this Van Halen cover band." It was like pandemonium in there. because everyone also was so cooped up. They're
Right.
seeing
Yeah,
all
yeah.
of this like really like fucked up stuff. You know what I mean? You're like, this is really like in just an intense time. And here comes this Van Halen cover band, Bottoms Up, and they just fucking destroy the place. And like, there's fucking like 5 girls dancing on the bar, and like fucking
like a
300
release,
people
like
in there. It
total
was
release.
totally
Yeah.
exactly that, dude. And it was such a, it was a very like amazing like moment, you know?
Cathartic.
Yeah, it totally was very cathartic in such like a silly way, like something that became silly or was sort of like silly and fun. Also had like this cathartic other thing that like you just never. How could you ever expect that? You know?
Not at all. Yeah,
was
especially like
wild.
with a catalog like theirs, it's just such a fun thing that.
Exactly.
sure.
Yeah, dude. And like they were all dressed up. Like everyone was just like raring to go too. It's like, yeah, we got to just like kind of forget about life for a second, and like, you know, tomorrow we're gonna go and help a bunch of people and stuff like that. And we were like, you know, just being on that, but like for these
Dance the
4
night away.
or 5 hours,
Yeah.
we're fucking going in.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Might as well jump.
And for us too, it was like we're closed and stuff like that. It was a great little shot in the arm to help us through,
Yeah.
like just a lower time, local businesses, and people wanting to go.
We're
awesome.
probably right at.
Yeah, we're right because it's
And
9:30. I know you have
9:30.
to leave. So
Yeah.
Last question.
So let's do the last question.
Let's do it.
All right.
Last question.
Last question. So Dave,
Yes.
name of the podcast is "If I Ruled the World." So we ask every guest the same question.
Mhm.
So if you ruled the world, Dave Castillo,
Mhm.
what would that look like?
Sheesh, man, it's a big question, right?
That's easy.
Yeah, easy and hard, I guess. I don't know, man. It would be a lot more equitable and a lot more fun. I'll tell you that, So maybe, lots of money for art and good pursuits and a nice, easy way for everybody to exist and survive. We need each other more than anything else. So yeah,
And a
something
lot
like that.
less existential risk.
A lot less existential risk. We mitigate existential risk in a very profound way.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank
All
you. Go ahead, you.
Thanks for having us, Dave.
Oh, dude, no problem. Thank you guys, man. It was fucking awesome.
Thanks for letting us set up at the apartment, and that's
We'll see
it,
you in
man.
Montauk.
The Castillo crib. Yeah, dude. Didi and Julio are out in Wanta. I'm there.
We're
I'm there.
going.
You'll find me, man. You'll find me.
If I ruled the world.